Yo, welcome Flyffers. So today we want to take a look at the plate, to be more specific at the AoE plate. But before we jump right into the video, I noticed that more than 70% of the viewers are not subscribed to the channel. So I make you a deal, you watch this video all the way to the end and I'm sure I earned your subscription by then. So now let's take a look what we're showcasing in the video. We already said we're going to look at the AoE plate. This means we will take a look which items he needs, which kind of stats he is wearing, which kind of skills he's using, all this kind of stuff. And to actually become a plate, once you are level 15, you need to do the mercenary job change, and there will be job change guides for sure. So don't worry about this, it will just be in a separate guide. And once you are level 60, you are able to turn into a plate. And as you can see right here, the plate is dual wielding weapons. And this means you can either wear 2 swords or 2 axes. And you will fight versus the enemies. The reason why the AoE plate is good is because it has a pretty decent dex ratio. This means the more dex he is adding, the better his melee block gets. And he has the best ratio for this over all of Flyff. So this is pretty neat. And we already said it is an AoE character. This means your main skill that you will use later on to do the area damage is based on SDR and Dex. This is basically your damage. And then your AoE, so you need to have some kind of health to maintain the incoming damage from the mobs. So stamina and HP percent is good. We talked about melee block quite a lot. It is the best AoE stat that you can get because it nullifies incoming damage. And as usual, we are using skills only to deal damage, so skill damage percent makes a lot of sense in our build here. If you are not interested in AoE, I also made a 1v1 plate guide. You should go and check this one out then. So now let's take a look at how to stat correctly. You do want to have, once you're level 90, you do want to have a total of 70 dex and about 120 stamina, and the rest you're putting into SDR. The reason why is that your main damage skill will scale on SDR and dex, so it's not a single scaling spell, and you need some kind of stamina to maintain your HP and use the gold pill efficiently. So with this amount of stamina, you will have about 12k health at level 90, which is more than fine. And the defensive 3k is also pretty good. And same goes for level 60. You already have enough health to maintain a pill. You have enough defense, and you can AoE just fine like this. We do have one note here that the Flyff did a change now. And the Ringmaster buffs are added in this topic here as well. In the previous guides it was not added, so this is specific if you're looking at those overviews right here. So when you want an AoE, you basically are 1v1 at the start, and that's why the Beetle and Comet parts can be combined to get like 20% hit rate. As you can see right here, 2 parts. Always 10% hit rate. If you can find more, of course you can use it, but at level 35 you will be able to AoE, and this means from level 35 on it's better to wear the highest defensive stats. And then once you are level 60, you can go with a recon set, already go for a +8 16% attack right here. And the reason why is that is the first set that's giving you HP and maintains your AoE abilities. And I do recommend going attack over HP because your skill that you're using for the AoE scales really well on the attack percent. And you don't need that much HP because you will have a decent amount of melee block available as well with your decks that you have added. Once you're level 75, you already reach your endgame AoE set. This is the Aoe set. That's why I do recommend going for a +10 and 28% attack right here. Try to funnel all your funds in there. And the reason why this is endgame, it's pretty similar to the other AoE sets that we talked about. It has the skill damage +10% and maintains the health. So this is pretty neat. Now let's take a look what kind of swords or weapons in general you're going to use. Pre-level 60, since you are going AoE, You would just recommend going the early on, just like highest attack. And once you're AoE, definitely just use the weapon with the highest attack. And once you are level 60, you can take your eyes open for a Guardian Sword that's giving 10% HP and a dex scaling. And the Historic Axe is something you can switch onto for a slight increase of HP at level 75. Though it is not, like this switch right here depends on your funds. I don't think it is recommended, but if you can afford it, you can go for it. And because I don't think the Guardian Swords will be that easy to sell, because I don't think there's many AoE blades around. So with the upgrades right here, you do need to be a bit careful. Maybe only go for like a +6 right here. And the Angel Sword is going to be your main AoE weapon. There's other weapons that give you better defensive stats, but this with the 7 dex and 7 STR is giving you the most damage and defensive stats, so this is your end weapon. And we already talked about this in other guides. There is a skill that requires you to have element on your sword or your weapon in general. So every weapon you use, you want to have at least +1 element on there, but you can of course upgrade it higher, but you want +1 element for sure on everything you use. Now let's take a look about the jewelry. What's great about the AoE plate, you have lots of options actually with what kind of jewelry you're going. Except the necklace, I would say that's pretty clear. You're either going with a gore or a pep for your HP and HP restoration. And then for the earrings, you can either go with a Demon or Mightier to increase your damage, or if you're in need of more tankability, you can use Speedos, which will give you even more melee block. So this is basically a player preference right here. And same goes for the jewelry. If you're going for a dex jewelry, you do get a bit of damage, but you also get more defense and melee block. And if you're going for strength rings, then you will get a huge boost of damage at level 70, but of course have no defense added. So this is totally up to your own playstyle. And if you rather collect like huge groups and AoE them down, or you may want to gather like a medium group and just kill this faster. So now let's take a look which kind of skills to use. We do have again a lot of passives. This Empower weapon, the first one, is the reason why you do want to have +1 element on your thing. And then if you're wearing swords, you will go with Blazing Sword and Sword Mastery. And if you're wearing axes, you will use the Smite Axe and Axe Mastery overall. Early on, if you do not want to level with auto attacks, I do recommend the /Keen Wheel option, where you put slash in your first slot in your action slot and Keen Wheel in the other ones. And then you just, you will deal pretty decent skill damage right here, especially if you can't maintain hit rate early on. This is really useful. And now there's something special about Flyff Universe. We already have a AoE skill available at level 35. This will be really handy, and we can definitely use this to our advantage. And if we are not willing to purchase like a reset, we could go from level 15 to level 35 full stamina and be ready to AoE at level 35 and maintain our speed that way. Otherwise, just use a reset here and go for stamina. Now, once we are a plate, we do have different options as well. What's really good, since we do want to collect our AoEs first, is the Silent Strike, because this will allow us to jump to other targets and maintain the gap. And it's not only good for coming up front fast, it will also result in the mobs that are following you having a harder time coming at you, and you will receive less damage while collecting your AoE. And then you have two different options for AoE. You either have the Blade Dance that is scaling fully on dex, or you have the Sonic Blade that is scaling mainly on dex, but also has an off-scaling, it's scaling mainly on STR, but Sonic Blade also has an off-scaling for dex. And the scaling for STR is about, I think it was like 4.5 times higher than the dex scaling, something around this, or 4, I don't remember correctly, but important is that this is scaled on STR and not purely on dex like the Blade Dance used to be. So now let's take a look at what the skills we need. Here, it is actually one of the classes where we do have a bit of trouble with our skill points at level 90. So I do not recommend getting slash to level 20 if you want to use the auto attacks early on. Only put it to level 14, because you will have this once in your action slot and keen wheel 4 times basically. So this is the best option. This is some you must have at level 35. This is your AoE. And down here you have all the passives that you need. Later at level 90, once you're basically decided that you're going with swords, you don't need those anymore. So you could actually also go for a reset and 3 more points to do something else. What is important, this is your gap closer right here, and this is your AoE at level 65, and this is your AoE that you unlock at level 70. So we learned that we are actually having 3 AoEs here. This means we have special hit, and if we want to use special hit well in our AoEs, we should be full stamina early on. If we want to use Blade Dance, we should have a stamina dex ratio. And if we want to use Sonic Blade, this is basically what this build is about and what the stat recommendation for level 90 was for. We do need to have some kind of stamina for enough health, some kind of dex for enough melee block, and enough STR to have the damage scaling for the Sonic Blade. So there's different options. And if we do want to maintain the most source of damage, since we only have 1 skill, I do recommend using an action slot with an Activision. And definitely the Vital Drink X is not recommended, but it is a convenience factor like we covered in other guides. But you can do it just fine with FP refreshers. And as always, the attack motion is really important. This means if you're collecting an AoE, you will want to press O, search for the attack motion, put it down in your taskbar and attack the mobs. That way, do not double click the mobs. It feels inefficient. And as soon as you are getting used to it, you will have a way cleaner opportunity to only do 1 hit at the mob and then continue to the next one, rather than fighting like a bit of hits at the mob and then going for the next one. This will save you a lot of time and will ensure that you gather the AoEs faster. Yeah, so now we are at the end of the video. I hope I earned your subscription by now. And if you liked the video, don't forget to comment and share. And we will also do a bunch of live streams on Twitch now. So make sure to check it out. Cheers.